When Tom stumbled upon a dazzling purple crystal buried in a forgotten valley, he thought he'd found a lucky souvenir. But the moment a seasoned jeweler laid eyes on it, everything changed. Doors locked. Questions flew. The police were called. And what started as a simple discovery turned into a jaw-dropping criminal investigation that reached the highest levels of power. Was Tom set up? And what was the jeweler hiding? Stick around, because the twist at the end will change how you see this entire story. In a hidden valley, Tom unearthed a brilliant amethyst. Its beauty left him in awe, but an unsettling feeling crept in. He sought out a jeweler, hoping to unravel its mystery. As he entered the shop, the jeweler's eyes widened, and Tom's anticipation grew. "Sir, please come in," the jeweler, Mr. Allister, said as soon as Tom opened the door. He was holding the amethyst in his hand, and he immediately noticed that the jeweler was already staring at it with a curious expression. "What have you got there?" Mr. Allister asked. And Tom finally opened his hand and laid the crystal on the desk in front of him. He explained where he had found it, and he added, "I have seen many crystals, but this one looks different to me. Could you take a look at it, please?" Of course, Mr. Allister was very interested, and he carefully took the amethyst in his hands. "It is indeed truly beautiful," he said as he inspected the crystal more closely. He grabbed a magnifying glass from a drawer to get a better look at it, and this was the moment things changed. Of course, Tom had no idea of what was about to happen. It would almost make him regret ever entering that jeweler's shop. Suddenly, Mr. Desplang. Allister turned around with his back to Tom and started muttering something like, "This can't be true. I cannot be seeing this right." He didn't want to intrude and enter the back office without approval, but he did want that crystal back. He was the one who had found it, after all, and he'd like to keep it. Minutes later, Mr. Allister finally returned to the shop and took place behind his desk, raising an eyebrow and skeptically looking at Tom. Tom was relieved and thought he'd get the crystal back and be able to go home now, but that was not the case. No, he wasn't going anywhere just yet. "Oh, there you are. Could I have that crystal back, please? I need to leave." "I'm running late for an appointment," Tom told him. Of course, he had no appointment, but he just wanted to leave. However, Mr. Allister shook his head and warily asked him, "Sir, I have some questions for you. Where did you say you found this crystal?" Tom repeated the same story again, but Mr. Allister didn't seem to believe him. "In a valley. Are you sure about that?" he asked, raising one eyebrow in suspicion. "Yes, like I told you twice already. Now, I'd like the crystal back." "I'll find another jeweler to help me," Tom snapped, getting frustrated by the whole situation now. However, Mr. Allister had other plans. "I'm sorry, sir, but I can't let you leave," he said. "Well, you can't make me stay either. Give me that crystal now," Tom replied. His patience was running out, and he didn't like the jeweler's tone. Wasn't he the customer, after all? Shouldn't he be treated with respect? To his dismay, things were only going to get worse from here. Tom noticed that Mr. Allister was not holding the amethyst, and he also couldn't see it anywhere on the counter. He realized that the crystal was still in the back office, behind a locked door. Mr. Allister noticed him looking at the door behind him, and he gave him a smug smile. "Yes, the crystal is locked safely in my office, and the police are on their way." Tom's eyes grew wide in disbelief upon hearing this. "The police? Why on earth did you call the police?" he asked, unable to hide his surprise. "Come on, don't act like you don't know why. Did you really think I wouldn't catch on to you? I know what you're doing," the jeweler replied, now also raising his voice for the first time. Tom didn't understand what was happening, but he didn't have a good feeling about it. In a split second, he decided, "Fuck that crystal, I'm leaving," and he turned around, heading for the door. However, just as he was about to place his hand on the no, Mr. Allister told him, "I wouldn't do that if I were you." "Why not? I haven't done anything wrong," Tom yelled back. He truly had no idea what the jeweler was on about, and he also didn't understand why he would possibly have needed to call the cops on him. However, it was too late for him now, anyway. He heard the wailing sound of sirens in the distance, and they were only becoming louder, and thus closer. Only moments later, the police arrived, and they immediately ordered Tom to get in the car. "Sir, we need to ask you some questions about that crystal." "You need to come back to the station with us," an officer told him, and Tom's face turned pale. His first instinct was to defend himself, and he said, "No, wait! You've got it all wrong." But the officer wouldn't listen. Tom didn't know what else to do, and he finally got in the car. When they arrived at the police station, the officers led Tom into a dark interrogation room and told him, "Wait here, we'll be right back." He was left alone and confused, and he had no idea what was happening. "I haven't done anything," he thought to himself, and he wished he could go home. Tom sat across from the detective in the dimly lit room, his hands nervously clasped on the table. The detective, a stern-looking man with a sharp gaze, began the interrogation. "Tell me about the amethyst," he said. Tom swallowed hard. "I found it in a valley, while hiking." "I swear I had no idea it was anything but a pretty stone," he said anxiously. The detective leaned in. "That amethyst, Mr. Tom, is linked to a high-profile case." Tom's heart pounded. "I just found it on the ground," he stammered, the seriousness of the situation dawning on him. "Your simple find is connected to a major criminal investigation," the detective continued. Tom's face fell. "But I didn't know," his voice faltered as dread took hold. Still, he maintained his innocence. "I didn't do anything wrong," the detective sighed. "We'll see about that. Your story is hard to believe." The conversation ended abruptly. "We have a lot to look into," the detective said as he stood. Tom sat there, confused and overwhelmed. As he prepared to leave, the detective stopped him. "You're not going anywhere yet." Tom's anxiety deepened. "I've told you everything I know. Can't take chances not with a case this sensitive. That amethyst was part of a famous museum collection stolen years ago." Tom's eyes widened. Stolen? He was stunned. The notion that he had stumbled upon a stolen artifact was hard to absorb. The detective outlined the complications. "Even if you didn't know, proving innocence is another matter." Tom had no proof, no explanation beyond his word. Panic crept in as the situation spiraled. The hours dragged on, suspicion mounting. "You're a prime suspect," the detective declared. Despite Tom's protests, the decision was made. "You'll be staying with us for a while." Tom was escorted to a holding cell, confused, helpless, and now a detainee in an investigation he barely understood. Eventually, due to lack of concrete proof, Tom was released. Back home, Tom knew he couldn't sit idle. "I need to find out where this amethyst really came from," he resolved. Driven by desperation, he launched his own investigation, researching maps, historical records, geological reports. His apartment became a research center, covered with notes and diagrams. Then, he returned to the valley. It no longer felt peaceful. As he explored deeper, a strange sensation grew. Was not alone. Something or someone was watching. Eventually, he saw a distant figure, half hidden in the foliage. They were clearly observing him. Tom's heart pounded. Who was this person? What did they know? And more importantly, why were they following him? Tom pressed on, undeterred. Eventually, hidden beneath overgrown brush, Tom discovered the entrance to an old mine. Driven by hope, he stepped inside. Amid the debris, Tom found a torn map that mirrored part of the museum's layout. While pondering this discovery, Tom was approached by Linda, a journalist who had been following the case. She offered her help, believing he was on the verge of something big. Together, they scoured archives and combed through old reports. A newspaper article revealed a heist eerily similar to the one involving the amethyst. It hinted at the involvement of a notorious, now defunct gang. A breakthrough came when they uncovered a secret recording. The voice in the confession outlined the heist in detail: planning, execution, and those responsible. High-ranking individuals were implicated. It was the key they needed. Armed with evidence, Tom and Linda confronted those involved. Each confrontation cracked the wall of silence. The truth was beginning to surface, and those once untouchable now scrambled to defend themselves. The revelation sent shockwaves through the community. Public outcry followed as reputations crumbled. The once hidden network of theft and deceit was unraveling rapidly. As authorities began acting on the evidence they'd gathered, hope returned. The case, once a nightmare, was moving toward resolution. Investigations were launched, arrests were made, and the truth began to eclipse the lies. The end of their journey was in sight, and with it, the promise of vindication. In a stunning twist, expert analysis confirmed that the amethyst Tom had discovered was a meticulously crafted replica. The revelation upended their assumptions, exposing a deeper layer of deception. Tom and Linda were stunned. The replica wasn't just a copy, it was planted, a deliberate misdirection that had sent the investigation astray. With this breakthrough, Tom's innocence became clearer. He hadn't stumbled into a crime scene, he'd been drawn into a web of manipulation. The discovery lifted the cloud of suspicion that had followed him since the start. Refocused, Tom and Linda resumed their search, now driven to locate the real amethyst and expose the full extent of the conspiracy. The replica had reignited their purpose. Back in his apartment, Tom sat in silence, absorbing the weight of all he had endured. The case had left a mark not only on Tom's life, but on his relationships, values, and goals. What began as a mystery had become a journey of personal transformation. As a symbol of that journey, Tom chose to keep the replica amethyst. What once represented suspicion and confusion now served as a reminder of resilience, growth, and the strength he had found within himself. But questions lingered. Who had crafted the replica? Where was the real gem? Though his name was cleared, the mystery still carried shadows. Not every story ends with all the answers. With the mystery of the amethyst resolved, Tom stood at the threshold of a new chapter, stepping forward with confidence, carrying the enduring lessons of his extraordinary journey.